Hi, I'm Bonnie Barker with BonnieBabeCrochet.com, and today we are going to be making the rectangle granny square blanket. This is a much larger granny square. It's ideal for a crib, and if, let's say, you don't want to make a baby blanket but you want to make this for a lap blanket for, let's say, an elderly confined to a wheelchair, or just to have around on your couch, you can do that. You can also continue this size to a very large size so that you can make for a, let's say, a twin size bed. All you need to do is just keep on going. If you haven't already, if you could please hit that subscribe button, that way you won't miss any of the new offerings I have coming your way. And also, if you hit that little bell, you can get notifications whenever I post new videos. Well, let me go ahead and show you how to make this blanket. For this project, I'm going to be using two yarn colors, one solid and one variegated. They're both made by Premier Yarns. They're called Parfait. And I'm going to give you some details. This scan has 574. For the baby blanket, we're not going to obviously use all of it. But if you wanted to go ahead and make this larger for a lap blanket, let's say for a person in a wheelchair or something, just to keep your legs warm, you can go ahead. We'll use more of it in that case. But this has 574 yards in a scan, or 525 meters. This is a bulky weight, but not as bulky as you would think. Okay, and this particular color I'm using is called Hot Pink. Now the variegated yarn, I think, has a little bit less in it, 478 yards per scan. Both of these are 100% polyester, and the name of this color is Cherry Juice. Okay, and let me go ahead and show you the hooks you're going to need. For this project, I'm recommending that you have a size K or 10.5 or 6.50 millimeter crochet hook. And you are also going to need a yarn needle for hiding a couple loose ends and a pair of scissors. Well, let's go ahead and get started. To begin, we're just going to make a slip knot, and I'll do this slowly, just for those of you who don't know how to do that quite with the hook yet. All right, and go ahead, and we're going to chain 32 chains. So go ahead and work those 32 chains. After crocheting those 32 chains, we are going to start in the fourth chain from the hook. So you need to count 1, 2, 3, 4. Right here, we're going to add 2 double crochets to this spot, because, let me show you after I do these 2 double crochets, this chain 3 actually acts as a double crochet for that little cluster. Then we're going to chain 1, then we're going to skip 3 chains, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to crochet 3 double crochets in that next chain. 1, 2, and 3. Now I am only crocheting, just for those of you who are taking notice, I'm only crocheting on one side of the chain. If you look at the chain as a V, and then it also has a back bump here, but I'm just crocheting in one side of the chain, and as I come back for this second part, I'll show you in a few minutes, I'm going to crochet on the other side and the remaining part of the chain. If you prefer to work in the back bump of the chain, you can do that, that's fine. But honestly, I think that may be a little more difficult than necessary. All right, so after we do those 3 double crochets in that chain spot, chain 1, skip the next 3 chains, and then double crochet 3 double crochets in that next chain. And this is what we're going to do all along the side of this chain. When we're done, you should have a total of 8 clusters. Okay, so after that 3 double crochets, we chain 1 again, skip 3 chains, and 3 more double crochets in that next chain space. And since I tend to, when I talk and crochet at the same time, sometimes I tend to get a little carried away on my speed with my crochet. since it's just become like breathing to me in many ways. If you have a need to slow down the video, you can, right in the corner here of the right-handed videos, and it would be over here on the left-handed videos. There's a little icon that looks like a gear. If you just click on that, you'll have the opportunity to change the speed, either faster or slower, according to what you desire. So I just thought I'd take mention of that. If you are watching me on an iPhone, there's 3 little dots up in the corner that if you click on that will allow you a chance to also change the speed. All right, I hope that's helpful. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this all the way across. Okay, I've just finished this all the way across, and I want to show you what you should have. Now, we're not done with this first round, but I just wanted to show you I've worked these last 3 double crochets in that last chain. Now I'm going to chain 2, 1, 2, and I'm going to work 3 more double crochets in the same place where the last 3 double crochets were worked. 1, 2, and 3. And I'm going to do that again. I'm going to chain 2. Okay, I'm actually making the corner where we are going to be going round and around and around many times. Okay, now I'm going to do 3 more after that chain 2. I'm going to do 3 more double crochets in the same place. And this is the strand that's left from the starting chain, and I'm actually going to crochet over it right here and now. And this is going to help to hide that as well. So 3 more double crochets in that same place. Okay, so I'm going to pause there. So you see that? That's the difference between the regular square granny square and the rectangle granny square. After that, I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to skip these 3 chains, 1, 2, 3, and then the same place opposite where I crocheted those first 3 double crochets, put 3 double crochets right there. 1, 2, and 3, and we're going to do that all the way down. Chain 1, skip 3 chains, and then double crochet 3 double crochets just opposite where that cluster on the other side was made. All right, then chain 1, and then skip those 3 chains, and then double crochet 3 double crochets opposite that other stitch. And by the way, this yarn is really nice and soft to crochet with, and by the way, this has a different quality to some of the other fuzzy yarn. It doesn't hurt my hands. It's not the type like the blanket yarn, which again I love to work with. The Bernat blanket yarn just has a lot more friction. This is very nice and silky smooth. It doesn't have the friction that can pull on your hands. Okay, chain 1. I'm going to go ahead and finish this all the way across, and when I get to the end, I'm going to show you something, a way to join, and there's one other thing that we have to do before we complete this round. Now I've gone all the way across to the very place where we started, and we're going to do something very similar to what we did at the other end. We're going to do 3 double crochets. Now this is the same place where the 2 double crochets were added. Okay, so 3 double crochets, and then chain 2, and you guessed it, we're going to add 3 more double crochets to that same spot there. 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and then we're going to join to the top of this chain. I have to crochet it over it a little bit, so you may have to pull that up. So I'm going to go ahead and find a chain. I'm going to try to grab a couple of strands. There we go. Do a slip stitch at the top of that chain, right like that. Now, the style of doing this particular granny square blanket is going to have the front side facing. So this is the front side of the double crochet stitch. This is the back side. okay, in case you're not familiar. So all of these rounds, the way I'm going to show you how to do it, it's going to have the front side facing, and I think that's going to make it kind of nice. So in order to begin round 2, we are going to actually slip stitch our way to the next section of the row. We're going to have you do a slip stitch in that next double crochet, and then a slip stitch in this next double crochet, and then do a slip stitch in the chain 1 space, right like that. You're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Now this chain 3 is going to act as a double crochet, so we're going to count that as a double crochet, and then we're going to crochet 2 more, 1, 2 double crochets in that chain 1 space. We're going to chain 1, and then we're going to skip the cluster, and we're going to work 3 double crochets in that next chain 1 space. Okay, let's pull up some more yarn here. So let me step back and give you a view of what we should have here. So this is the first round. Actually, let me give you a better view. Okay, so this is the first round, and now we've begun the second round in the, not the corner space, but in the first space. Okay, so now what you're going to do is chain 1, and we're going to skip the next cluster and work 3 double crochets in the chain space, and you're going to do this all the way until you get to the corner. When you get to the corner, I'm going to show you something different. Now that we get to the first corner, I'm going to show you how to make the corners, and you're going to do this every time you get to the chain 2 corners of this throw. We're going to again skip this 3 stitch cluster. We're going to do 3 double crochets, and as we form the corner, we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and then we're going to do 3 more double crochets right in that same spot. And this is also a fun project. If you wanted to make it much larger than what I'm aiming for, you can actually make this for like a twin size bed. It would fit the size of the bed quite nicely. Okay, now we're going to chain 1, and then we come to another chain 2 corner, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do 3 double crochets, chain 2, and then 3 more double crochets, all worked in that same space. Now that we get to working along the straight edge, we're just going to chain 1, and we're going to work 3 double crochets in that next chain 1 space. And go ahead and do that all the way until you get to the next corner. Now we come to the next corner, and I'm going to work this through with you again. We're going to work 3 double crochets. Okay, and then after that we're going to work a chain 2, 1, 2, and then we work 3 more double crochets in that same space. 1, 2, 3, and then we chain 1, and then we have another chain 2 corner here, and we do 3 more double crochets, chain 2, 1, 2, and then 3 more double crochets right in that same place. Okay, I know I'm going kind of fast, but these are all double crochets. As long as you know what a double crochet is, maybe I'm saving you some time here. All right, so now we chain 1, and that brings us to the beginning of the round. So go ahead and stick your hook in there into the top of that chain 3, do a slip stitch, and I'm actually going to fasten off because I'm going to change to my new color. So do fasten off, you give it a chain, give it a tug, and then this is where your scissors come in handy. Make sure you trim a nice, a nice long strand. Doesn't have to be crazy long, but I like at least 5 inches or so, or just long enough so that you can thread it into your hook should you need to hide these, although I'm going to have you
try to crochet over as many of these as possible to make hiding the loose strands a little bit easier. Okay, now it's time for us to change to our new yarn. Now the fun begins. We're going to be joining this variegated colored yarn, and I'm going to show you how to join them in the corners. I think this is going to be the easiest way to do this. So go ahead and do a little slip knot like this. Make sure it's nice and taut. And then I bring this through like this, and then do a chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to work over this stitch in the corner as I crochet these remaining double crochets. So remember I said this counts as 1 double crochet, so that's 1, 2, 3. So you're really just adding 2 double crochets because this turning chain looks like a double crochet and it takes the space of 1. Chain 2, and then go ahead and crochet 3 more double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Now there's an awful lot of stitches crocheted on top of this particular strand, and this is not real slippery yarn, so I'm not worried about this slipping away. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to trim it right now so I don't have to deal with it ever again. And I can just give a little tug like that, and I think that little end is good. And if you kind of take the time to do this as you add the colors each time, I think it's going to serve you in the long run. Okay, now we're just back to crocheting the way we crocheted round 2. Chain 1, and then we're just going to crochet 3 double crochets in each of the chain 1 spaces. Now we do have this extra strand here, and let me show you another way to fasten this one, or to crochet it into your work. You can actually hold it backwards. I should have done this before. Hold it backwards like this, and then go ahead and crochet your 3 stitches on top of that. 1, 2, 3, and you can even play with that a little bit. And so now you can choose to hide them more. Actually, I'm going to do that. I'm going to show you how to do this right as we go. I'm going to go ahead and put this in the needle. I mean, I could just trim it right there, but I want a little more security for this. So I'm going to take and run this under those 3 stitches there, and then the 3 stitches there of the corner. So it's going to be well hidden under a lot of stitches here. And once I do that, I can go ahead and give it a trim. Make sure you're careful not to cut your work, but only cut that loose strand, and that is good to go. So at this point in the game, all of our strands are hidden. So if we hide as we go, that's going to save you a lot of time later. So back to the crochet. We chain 1, skip that cluster, and 3 double crochets in the next space. So go ahead and do that all the way across until you get into the corner. Once we get to the corner, this is going to be crocheted just like the corners were of round number 2. We work 3 double crochets in that chain 2 space, chain 2, and then 3 more double crochets in that same chain 2 space. Let's go ahead and pause so you can see how those chain 2 spaces are looking. Chain 1. Now we have a chain 1 space here, so we do 3 double crochets. So the corners are going to get further and further apart with each round. You're going to have additional clusters to work in between. So just know that. It's just the way this works out. And now we get to another chain 2 corner, and we do 3 double crochets. I know it seems pretty obvious right now, but I will say that I have gone right past corners on many different projects and forgot to work the 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets in those corners, and then have to do a lot of ripping out and repairing or recrocheting. So just be mindful that when you come to those chain 2 corners, and they do come up on you quickly, that you go ahead and put another corner in its place so that you can keep the shape of what you're working on. Okay, So that's what we have so far. So I'm going to go ahead and complete this round. After working across, I'm going to come to the last corner of this round. I'm going to go ahead and do the 3 double crochets. I know I'm repeating this. It may be kind of redundant for some of you, but in the event that there is a new beginner out there, and I do hope there are plenty of you who are new to crochet, because it's a wonderful craft. I just want to make sure that you understand what's going on. I know the seasoned crocheter is probably already snoozing on me there, but for those of you who are new and like me and need to hear things again and again before my brain absorbs it, I hope this serves you well. Okay, so now I'm going to chain 1, and I do have that 3 double crochets to put in that chain 1 space. And my yarn is getting a little curly on me here. And then we chain 1, and then we're going to join it to the first corner that we started with a slip stitch. And I do like to grab 2 strands of that chain when I connect like this. Okay, come on, pull through. There we go. Now I'm going to slip stitch over to the corner. I'm going to keep with the variegated yarn until I've completed 4 rounds. Okay, this is 1 round. I'm going to do this for 3 more rounds. I'm just going to show you how to start the next round, but I'm going to have you do this 4 more, or actually 3 more times, until you have a total of 4 rounds with the variegated yarn. Okay, so to start the next round, we're going to slip stitch in that next stitch, slip stitch in the next stitch, and then slip stitch in that chain 2 corner. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3. And since we are working a corner, we need 3 double crochets, so this acts as 1. So go ahead and do 2 more. 1, 2, chain 2, and then 3 more double crochets. 1, 2, and let me try that one again. The yarn's just getting a little curly here. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we've completed the corner, and then we're going to chain 1, and then we'll just continue our pattern of the 3 double crochets in those chain 1 spaces. And just don't forget that when you get to the corners, that's the point. I'm going to go ahead and show you. So when you get to the corners, that's the point where you do 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets, okay, so that you keep that going. So go ahead and do 3 more rounds with the variegated, or color number 2. If you want to use solid colors, that's fine. Now, if you wanted to get really crazy on this and you just wanted a different color each round, you know how to connect it in, like I showed you. You know how to connect it in and to do the chain 3 and then the other corners there. Go ahead and do that, and you can do that every single round, but I'm just going to be changing my colors after every 4 rounds. After completing 4 rounds with the variegated color, I'm going to go ahead and join with a slip stitch. Get those 2 strands there for security to the top of that chain 3. And since I've completed 4, I'm going to go ahead, 4 rounds, I'm going to go ahead and give it a chain so I can fasten off. Go ahead and give it a clip right there. Okay, now I'm ready to join my solid color. Before I do that, let me just show you how this is looking right now. Okay, this is coming out quite nicely. Let me go ahead and give you the dimensions. After completing these 6 rounds, the project is approximately 8 inches wide by about 20 inches long. Okay, with every 4 rounds that we make with each different color, and as I said, I'm going to be alternating these 2 colors. With each additional 4 rounds, you're going to be adding approximately 5 inches to the width. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you how to join the dark color once again, in case you need, a little refresher on that. And I'm going to go ahead and join to the corner just to be consistent. And when I do that, I like to do my little slip knot outside here, like this. Make sure that it is to the size of the crochet hook, and go ahead and pull through and do your chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to be working over this loose strand as I make the corner here, and again that's with 2 double crochets alongside that turning chain, or joining chain, whatever you want to call it. It does act as a double crochet in this case. Chain 2, and then again continuing to work over this loose strand. Go ahead and work 3 more double crochets. Oops, let's go ahead and get all the strands through. And since I've already got about 5 stitches over this, I'm going to go ahead and trim this loose thread. Very carefully make sure I'm trimming that next to the stitch, but not the actual stitch. Okay, chain 1, and just like we've been doing so far, just in that chain 1 space, we're going to work 3 double crochets. And this pattern pretty much takes care of itself. So you have all the tools you need now to make this as small or as big as you would like. So just continue on, and I'm going to make 4 rows of this, and then I'm going to do 4 rows, rounds rather. 4 rounds of this color and then 4 rounds of that color. I'm going to alternate it. I'm going to end on the dark color, but I'll go ahead and show you my progress once I get towards the end, and I'll be sure to give you the measurements and so forth. I'll show you, the size where I stop. And just to repeat myself again, I know it's redundant, but this can make a delightful baby blanket. It also can be made larger into a very nice lap blanket, which come in handy really, really wonderfully for the elderly, especially if they're limited to the wheelchair. And if you want to keep going bigger and bigger, of course, you're going to need more yarn. You can go ahead and make this into the size of a single bed. Well, I will show you what I have once I get to that point, and then I will show you the final round that I'm going to work. And you could work this final round to finish off any of those that you decide to do. So now we're going to go and work our final round. I'm going to be working a small shell in each of the open chain 1 spaces here, and you can start them in any of the middle of the cluster here in that second double crochet. You can go ahead, and I'm going to make my slip knot here like we've been doing as we join the yarn, and then go ahead and do a chain. Okay, so now you're joined to that first cluster right there in the middle, and now working in this space we're going to do 4 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then we're going to do a slip stitch in the center double crochet of the next cluster. Slip, stitch. And the one thing that's different about this stitch is you do not wrap the hook. That's the only difference really between that and the single crochet. The next space here, or the chain 1 space, go ahead and do 4 more double crochets. That's 3, 4, and then we're going to slip stitch in that second double crochet of the cluster. Now we are going to get to our chain 2 space, which is the corner, and I want you to go ahead and crochet 8 double crochets in that spot. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then we're going to do another slip stitch again in the center of that cluster. Let's pause and take a look at how this is looking. Okay, so this is just a nice border to kind of bring unity to the color and kind of finality here with color 1. Again, come end and we start with the same color. And so now we're going to do this all the way around. I'll do one more for you. I'm gonna do 4 double crochets, and then slip stitch again in that second double crochet of the cluster. So go ahead and work this all the way around your blanket. After working the shell stitch all the way around, go ahead and slip stitch in that last center double crochet, and then we have 4 more double crochets in this last space. And then we're going to just slip stitch right there in the same place. Go ahead and just do it in the same place where that first slip stitch was worked, or where we joined. And go ahead and give it a chain, give it a tug, and get your handy dandy scissors. Go ahead and clip that loose thread, and go ahead and give it a tug. And we are just about finished, and I will show you the entire project in just a second here. Let me show you one more thing. This is kind of a review because I did show this earlier, but in case you need a refresher, we actually have 2 strands that need to be hidden. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that real quick again. We thread the yarn needle carefully, and you can do this really on either side, but let's go ahead and bring these threads to the back because this does have a definite front or back. And I'm going to run it through a couple of these little strands here, because what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to hide the bulk of this underneath a similar colored thread, just like that. Go ahead and give it a pull, and I'm going to go ahead and clip it close but not too close so you don't hurt your stitches. And that one is hidden, and I just have one more to do here, and then I will be done.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this project. This was actually a lot of fun for me. The final dimensions on my Afghan turned out to be 31 inches across, 43 inches long. Of course, that can vary depending on how many rounds you decided to complete yourself. All right, well, if you enjoyed this project, if you could just hit that little bell, that would really be great. And also you will get notifications of any new uploads that I put on my channel. And as always, if you haven't subscribed already, please hit that subscribe button. That would really bless me. Well, anyway, that's it for now. I just wish you a wonderful, wonderful summer, and just wish God's blessings on you. Bye-bye.